It seems to be good, so start streaming. Okay. Hello, everyone. It's time. We're live. As always, thanks a lot for joining us. For joining me, actually. I'm alone in a room, in a building, even. We're going to talk about modular game asset creation today. So modular game assets are simply reusable chunks. Let me show you. I have an example in Krita. So you can see a tree that looks like it has tons of leaves. Well, actually, that's just one patch of leaves replicated 3 times. So we're going to talk about environment art in essence in that. And obviously, if you have questions and comments, I have the chat right in front of me, so you just ask. And yeah, it's based on the training I'm working on, as always. Where's the last document? Krita, come on. Let me show you that. I have the concept around. There you go. So that's the environment's concept. And when we make a complex environment like this one in a game, we don't want to draw and paint every single part of it. As an illustrator, you might want to do that. You are making one painting. But in the game, the level might be super long. Oh, did I forget to start the music? Yes, I did. All right. Your favorite, as always, Lifeformed, Fastfall. And there will be some Zircon after that. So, for your game environment, you want the level designer to have maximum flexibility. He will move the assets around, but he will use other tricks as well. In many game engines, you can recolor your sprites using vertex colors. So that's a bit technical. That's in something you do in 3D engines like Unity, or that should be feasible in Godot. And let's get started. Oh, we even have some Japanese. Konnichiwa. Your microphone. Oh, hold on. Voice loop. What's happening? Is it outputting to the... I think I understand why. Okay, I'll have to cut the music if I'm using this microphone then. Hold on. Yeah, sorry for the voice loop. That's because of the setup I'm using for the microphone. I'm gonna switch to the other one, which is of lower quality, but that will avoid some issues, maybe. No, okay, let's do it that way. It'll be all right. Just put your own music in the background then. So, you can do things like what you can see on screen. Basically in the game engine, right? That's not something you end up doing in the graphic program, but I'm showing this in Krita because because it's a bit slow right now to take the assets into a game engine, re-export them to show you how it updates and all. So we'll do that from within Krita. We can emulate the effect. But basically, that's the idea. Automatically, in the game engine, it's often automatic. If you are moving the image in the background, for example, it will likely do something like that. As you move it farther down, you might want to add some more shadow, or you might want to do that manually. Something that's very common. So vertex colors, in case you don't know, allow you to do things like these, but in real time in the game engine. So hold on. Is it? I think that's clone layers there. I just have to use this one, group it, flatten it, and that should be all right. So with vertex colors, you can do some things like these. Let me show you, maybe with something like, normally it's more like add or something like that. So basically, vertex colors are going to allow you to create color gradients in real time in the game engine, which means that you can reuse an asset many, many times, and you can add contextual shadows based on what's around it. So now, as a game artist, your role is to make a good asset that works well when you duplicate it many times. And that's the case with this bush. That's also the case with the tree leaves that I have around. Krita might be a bit slow with those documents. Okay, do you want to switch? No, it doesn't want to. Oh, come on, you're not going to be buggy. Yeah, okay. Thank you. And now, okay, it's switching in the end. So yeah, when you see that tree, it's basically, will there be any files here? Like, I said the brushes will be out in March, so the month is not finished. I think in, well, what, 11? Basically, they are ready. I just have to put out the update, but I have to do the premium update at the same time. That's why it's taking me a bit of time. And I have client work right now. So next week or the week after that. Yeah. But the presets are ready. I have them, I think, here. Do I? In this version. Nope, it's in the next version. It's on my hard drive. Because I put a new version out, but for the premium version. Anyway, yeah, it's coming, so don't worry about that. So, here's the process. You have an environment, okay? And the thing is, when I'm doing a concept art, I use many shortcuts, like, you know, this big patch of whatever that is, basically is meant to represent the bushes. It allows me to get a sense for the layers I will use in the game, and also to get a sense for the colors I want to have and all. It's really like a scratch pad where I do things in a messy way, all right? And so when it comes to making the final asset, I know that I have a few things to do. I have a tiling road texture. I have to make bushes to put in the foreground. 2 layers of bushes, but these are kind of the same assets. Some trees that will be in the foreground, some trees less detailed in the middle ground, and some repeating tree texture in the background. Okay, on top of that, you can add dirt mounds and things like these. So we're going to look at that. If you have requests for the assets, don't hesitate, like flowers or whatever. Don't ask for flowers, it's hard. But other things, simpler things. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the tree thing. All right, I'll just grab this one as a copy to give you a sense, or for people dropping in the stream, so they have a sense of what we're doing, because it's not really exciting otherwise if you just drop around. All right, let's create a new fairly large document. So I'm working at a big resolution. And here we are. Ah, yes, there is that lovely bug as well. Okay, scale down the tree. Hold on. So basically, the principle is quite simple. You want to create detailed assets, right? But unlike a typical illustration, come on, PigDev, you shut up. You get out. Yeah, he's asking me to make flowers. So, the idea is, you can see this tree is quite detailed, but now there is something particular to it. The patterns are evenly distributed, the leaves, everything, and that's how it works. You basically make something quite detailed, but you make sure that no detail stands out. That's it, really, for the most part. Okay, so we're going to draw a tree. And for the tree, there are multiple approaches, but what I'd recommend is to just make the trunk and then a patch of leaves that's separate from it. When it comes to the trunk, you can go a step further and make basically the trunk, but also the branches as separate elements. If you're going to make dead trees, for example, with lots of branches, you want to reuse them as much as possible. Okay, so let's sketch the base of our tree right there. I'm in normal mode. That's cool, but the color is not very visible. Hold on. Do I have a selection? No. What's the matter? Okay. All right. So that's kind of how I start. I define the proportions of my tree, and it's going to be a bit big if I do it that way. A bird and mushrooms. We'll do mushrooms on the tree. That's a really good idea. Characters and birds are not really modular elements. I mean, you can make them in a modular way if you're going to do lots of birds, but in general, it's more like one single animated character that you copy and paste around. All right, so I'm getting the rough proportions for the tree. Maybe we'll make it a bit shorter than the one we have above, with like a small tree, not exactly a shrub, but something in between, and with larger leaves, like something a lot more stylized, so you can see a different type of asset than the one on top. Okay, so that's the idea. At first, I'm trying just to get the proportions and the style of the leaves and the style of the tree. All right. So, whoops. My mouse is under the tablet, so it's not always easy to grab. Okay, and I'll start with a fairly dark color. That's something I'm into lately. I just like to have a dark base from which I can add light on. Okay, you do colors the way you want to. You can start grayscale. You can do whatever you want, really. But that's just how I like to do it. Oops, it's the same layer. Let's do a new one. So PigDev is asking, we can also do hue shifting to these assets like the bird we were talking about, in order to make it look less repetitive. Yes, we can do that. Honestly, often it's not necessary. For characters, and you can see how monsters in games, sometimes if you have different colors for the same monster, it will generally be kind of the same but stronger with a few more skills. For example, in a Japanese RPG. Now, when it comes to simple characters, props, and all that stuff, no, in general, we just reuse them, copy paste it around. So that's the same idea as having the same monster, like the same slime. It's exactly the same sprites and all every time, because it doesn't make too big of a difference in the end. So you drive, basically when you're making the game, you really have, I've played RPGs quite a lot when I was younger. I don't play games anymore almost, but I just want to play the new Zelda. But yeah, so you'll see that basically you have so little time. I mean, you have so much to do, rather, that you can't really... Even small improvements to just props and small elements are not worth it. So even in very big games, you won't see that in general, because the player won't even notice normally. Okay, so you can see me making my trunk, and I'm making the branches part of it. Okay, so I told you can use different branches that are split from the main sprite, but as we're going to have the leaves that will cover it up, just like the tree at the top, it's not really worth it. You don't have to bother. However, the trunk will be a separate sprite from the leaves, and it's the level designer in the game that will place the leaves on top to randomize the trees, or we will maybe do that via code. In some other games, they also make trees kind of unique, and that's a lot of work. This brush is part of my free brush set, so I don't think I have a link on this one, but it's a blending flat brush. Quite simple. Alright, so I'm just making the branches long enough so that it's easy enough to cover, with the leaves in the end. That's the only thing I'm being careful about. But for a small tree like that, I must say that you might not see too much variation in the level design. Hi there, William. I don't play games but create them instead. Well, honestly, I haven't had a lot of time to really create games. I create prototypes, I code, I work with other game developers, but I make videos, and when I'm not making videos, I work for clients. So yeah, I don't have that much time left. But I'm getting back to it. After, basically, once I'm done with the current Krita projects, the focus will be on game development, game design, with a little bit of art as well. Okay. So now when it comes to the base of the trunk, you don't want to detail that too much, because most of the time, it will be covered by dirt, by other plants, by all sorts of assets. So what we really want to detail is the leaves. And to do that, we're just going to create one patch. So I'll start with a simple base that I'll make with the shape brush, like that. I'm keeping the same color, just to get kind of the shape for the patch. So I want to make it flat, basically, and large enough. I'd rather scale it down than scale it up afterwards. It's a bit too... Okay, we're going to make a tree with fairly flat leaves. And as I often do, I'm using the liquify tool to refine the shape. So just to explain, because the distribution of branches is fairly, even on a tree, somewhat even, the leaves tend to be distributed as well in spherical patches. All right? That's why we can abstract them that way. That's why you can use a shape. Basically, you can use spheres, but you know how for pine trees, for example, you can use a triangle, right? And that works because basically the pines are evenly distributed on the pine tree. And yeah, the program is Krita. It's free and open source, so go ahead and go download it. I didn't think there would be persons who... Can someone share the download link for those who don't know it? I think it's always useful. Didn't think about adding it to the description. So it's available on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and that's basically that's probably the best free open source painting program you can find currently. All right, so let's think about the leaves base color. Okay, that's something I often do as well. I like to have my base color set quite dark as well. We're going to lighten it, and that's just the way I like to do it. So if you look at the reference tree, I basically started with the darkest color you can see on the screen, and I'm layering in leaves, one patch after the other, up to the lightest point, okay? My camera capture is very desaturated. Okay, I guess that's fine. That's part. I know it's okay. It's the sun is starting to hit it. Yeah. I can't do much about that for now. Sorry. Yeah. The sun is hitting it straight right now. Okay, so I'm starting with the darkest color. That's going to be fairly dark and desaturated, like that. And yes, I'm waiting for Python scripting as well. So pretty soon we'll be able to make add-ons for Krita. That's going to be awesome. Yeah, sadly the sun is coming straight into the room, so there's not much to do. And Abdel Mujib is asking for a free level design course. No, you can find articles, but I don't know many courses. Sorry for that. Okay, so when it comes to the brush, I'm going to use the brush shape as directly as possible to create the silhouette of my tree. It really depends. No, I said we'll do something more stylized. Okay, I'll draw the leaves one by one. But basically, something I do quite often is I use a basic brush like that, and I'll use the ratio to make the base of the leaf. Okay, so you can go to the brush editor with F5 and you can change the base ratio of your brush with the second slider in the brush tip category. And that's something I do very, very commonly. So here's how I'm gonna do it. On a new layer, I'll create one leaf and I can delete the sketch now. I'm gonna save also because God knows it might crash at some point. Yeah, I really hope that with Python we'll see more contributors because there's quite a bit of functionality that would work with Python, basically. You're welcome. So here's how I do it. I'll make the base shape of the leaf and I'll carve into it. All right. So that's what I have, some kind of blob. I think that's all right. And then with a slightly different brush, I'm going to carve into it. I'm going to give it a nicer shape. Hold on, it needs to be lighter because the sun is kind of coming on on the screen for me as well. And I'm going to be blind by the end of the session. Okay, so let's think about something along those lines. With the blending brush I'm using, the leaf is a bit blurry. But again, I'm always working at 2 times the game's resolution. So at export time, it's going to be downscaled and sharpened. So that's not a big deal. Even if we do destructive operations like these, something I do all the time. So working with the liquify filter and all, it's all right. Okay, so once you have one leaf, depending on what you want to do, you're going to paint it directly as an individual asset and then scatter it around the tree, or you're going to simply use the shape and scatter that around the tree. So the style I have here is quite simple. It's just this silhouette that's being scattered around. But just to show you, I'll make a leaf, a more complete leaf example. Yes, I'm using a graphic tablet. And one question, when I want to make a background, should I do it in blocks or one very long painting? If it's for a game, you want to make individual sprites, really. So that's what I'm showing on screen right now. You want to make many sprites like these. And if you're doing illustration, it's just one painting, right? It depends on the purpose. Because making those sprites one after the other is going to take you a bit more time. Okay, so the base of a leaf is quite simple. It's quite round going forward, and you tend to have more shade at the base because it's kind of inside of the tree, tucked in. And that's about it. And most of the time we're going to do a very typical leaf and add some darker tone in the middle, some kind of line like that. And you don't need too many details. So now I was talking about modular design and painting. Well, every step of the process is modular, kind of. Okay, let's add some more of a yellow tone. I'll add just some more color variation, otherwise the asset is going to be very dull. Okay. Okay. Let me paint that. And don't forget to put your own music on top of the live stream, because yeah, for technical reasons, I can't have it today. Okay, so right, we kind of have a base. It's not that pretty, but it'll do the trick. All right. That's always when you do things live, you tend to make a lot more mistakes, but that's part of the game. For me, by the way, it's the end of a long day of work. I'm been here since before 7 a.m. It's 4 p.m. and it's been 8 days working in a row. That's why there wasn't any video on Thursday, by the way, because I just had too much work. Okay, so let's go with something along those lines. A bit more contrast. Just for good measure. There we go. So now the trick is going to be to scatter it around the tree and kind of create a line of assets like that. So that's quite simple. Note that Krita has a feature that allows you to clone the layers, but the problem is if you add too many, like in the case of a tree, you're gonna have some trouble. As far as performances are concerned, it's not going to like it too much. So that's really kind of how you make a modular patch. So the idea is quite simple. We're going to pile up leaves, then we'll deform them a little bit and paint over them in a more global way. Okay. And we're going to make one line after the other. Like that's about it. So you'll see what I mean. I just have to scatter this one around and gonna make one with a different shape. So I'm reusing my asset as much as I can, and I'll paint over it a little bit, do some extra. And that will be a good occasion to talk about Krita's strengths again, because it has some features that are really powerful for game artists. So the main one being the ability to, I can transform all of these layers at the same time. Okay, just gonna add a last one there, scale it down. So I'm doing that right in Krita, right? So we don't want to have dozens of sprites in the game engine. It would slow down the game quite considerably, especially on mobile. So we're doing that in the image editing program. And that's typically part of the things that you'll then want to do with a program like, with Python scripting, sorry. Okay, so yeah, I kind of have a base. Now you can see the single leaf was not too sexy, right? With that kind of large light green blob in front. But when I'm starting to stack them up, you can see how we get some nice kind of cast shadow on the leaves below it. To duplicate a layer, you press Ctrl-J. It's the same as in Photoshop. The only difference is that it won't use your selection, if I'm correct. Let me check. Or will it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't use the selection. I think there's another shortcut for that. I can't remember. Okay. One last. And I'll show you the next trick. So at the end of the day, it's quite fast because painting leaves one by one would take us ages, but doing things the way I'm showing you is quite fast. So PigDev is asking a very good question. Is it a good thing to have a different document? Let's say for leaves, with 6 types of leaves, with maybe different colors for seasons, so we can build a whole library to search, to build the new assets? Yes, exactly. So quite simply, when you right-click, you have the ability to copy and paste layers from one document to another. So when you make your leaves like that, you can basically, I can do... that's something I'm going to I wanted to show you right after that, but let me get them back to the top. So when I have 6 layers like these, I can copy, paste, and now I have a new set of layers. I'm going to group them in order to transform them all at the same time. So there's only Krita that allows you to do it. You can select many layers at least as far as image editing programs like bitmap, painting programs are concerned. So now I can take, I have 6 layers in there, but I'm transforming them all at the same time. I'm gonna mirror them around, rotate them a bit, transform them a bit, pull them up, and there you go. I have a new line of leaves. And it's quite fast. Now with the R key, I can click on the canvas to select a layer, and with the T key, I can move that layer. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, so that's one step. Yes, as Scott is saying, for layer duplication, if you want to duplicate your selection, you do Control-C, Control-V, right? But still, it's part of those things that are kind of, when you use, I still use Photoshop a lot, and those things are kind of hardwired in your brain. But yeah, Control-J to duplicate. All right. So now you can see our tree come to life. I'm just going to pull the, first I'll group everything together. Hold on, I think down there, these are the leaves. Gonna go down to the patch. There we go, group everything. And the only thing with having so many layers, at least in Krita, it can slow the program down. Ovidio, yes, the stream will be available to watch later, so you can go ahead, do your things, and you can come back when it's out. All right, so now the patch that I have in the background is a helper shape for me, okay? Now I want to scale it down a little because I really want the leaves to shine, and this is just going to serve as a background for the rest of the leaves. You can transform multiple layers in Clip Studio Paint too. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. In Photoshop, for some reason, you can't really, like, batch transform layers. At least you can, what I meant, because yes, you can do a simple free transform in most programs, but in Krita this applies to everything. So this applies to the perspective transform, the liquify tool, the cage tool as well. So I should say you can do deformation on every single layer at the same time. In Photoshop you can't because the liquify tool is a kind of a filter, but I can show you. I have a number of layers there. I have 6 layers, and I'm deforming them with the liquify tool to conform them to the shape, to give them some more roundness of the tree I want to make, right? And when I press enter, Krita applies the transform to every single layer. This one gonna go up. Okay. So you can see that's in what? Yeah, 20 minutes, I think. We have a working tree with many leaves. And for the last layer up, I'm still gonna do the same thing, right? I take the leaves group, duplicate it, move it around. Now there's just gonna be a small difference. I'm gonna scale it down. And there, because it's the top of the tree, I need to add some extra leaves, kind of in a ring, you know, to really make them cover the whole tip of the tree, the whole surface. Okay, and I'm doing it in the simplest way possible, right? I could take the time to make new leaves, really, that are turned away from the tree, like think about the perspective and all. but I'm just using the simplest route possible. That's why I use transform tools, and really if need be, I'll just patch up the assets in the end. But yeah, really doing things as easily as possible. There we go. This one is nice. And all right. And that's what you are seeing there is one single leaf, right? It's the same one. And it still looks like it's, you know, different elements. That's kind of the beauty of it. So you can apply the same principle to many things when you're doing game art like that. You can always, you know, make eyes for a character, for example. You could think about haircuts and things like these and try to mix and match them. This works. Sorry, Varsa is asking, what hardware are you on? I'm on, what do I have? A GTX something 970. I think it's a pretty good one for the GPU. I have an SSD drive. I don't remember the processor, but it's a quad-core something. Pretty typical stuff, right? Okay, I just need a few more leaves at the top. Maybe I could do a bit of painting, but I'm lazy. Just up there to patch it up. And notice and remember how, you know, the leaves are evenly distributed. Okay, that's very important. That's very important because when we place the tree in the game, we don't want to see too much of a pattern. Yeah, I have a pretty nice computer. Well, basically, I don't go out too much. I don't spend too much money on everything, and I keep it because of the way it works for me. I have a micro company, and it makes it so I basically pay hardware from my own pocket, and I keep money I make, and I use it for, you know, to always improve my equipment and all, because I don't have too many. I do have other expenses, but they're not, you know, huge. Basically, instead of going out and all throughout over the years, I saved up to buy some software and hardware. Yeah. And I change computers not too often, like once every 6 years or so. You know, before that, back in the previous one I bought in 2009. This one I bought 1 year or maybe 1 year and a half ago. So, yeah. Okay. The last one, it's not working too well. This one, it looks a bit strange. But look at it. We have the leaves. We do have the leaves. They're kind of working. Now, we're far from done, right? We have our patch of leaves. But now I'm going to do two things. I'm going to group them properly, and then we'll add shadows in between the layers and a bit of paint to add variation. So I just have to make sure that the right leaves are okay. Together, this one, it's only the ones in front. I also want the ones in the back. Basically, each and every ring of leaves has its own group, okay? Missing one in this one, so that's not the most interesting part of the job, but that's going to be quite useful for us because we can add layers in between to add the leaf shadows. Okay. And the last one. It's quite straightforward. This one has a little issue I can see. One thing is when you're looking at the thumbnail of your layer, if you can't see basically the leaf, it means that you have some pixels somewhere around the canvas, and you want to get rid of that when you see it. Okay. What was the circle for again? The circle is just to remind you of the shape you want to follow. It gives you the form basically of the thing. So I just made a simple shape. It serves two purposes. If I remove it, you will see some gaps as well in the sprite, and you don't want that. So we're going to keep it as part of the group. If I duplicate it and take it to the top, basically it helps us to think about the lighting and the form of the tree. So if I draw some lines, basically something like that. Hold on. Opacity is too low. Okay. You know, it helps me to keep in mind that basically the tree is like this, and that when I place the leaves, I will have to think about them. Hold on, I'll take another brush. Pointing in various directions based on the form, you know. And often you even want to think about trees, leaves that are in the back, right? Okay. So back to the patch. Now, we have the groups, and there are a few things we can do, but quite simply, inside of each and every group, I'm going to name them. By the way, you can quickly name something. You select the groups, you press F3, and then I'm going just to type leaves, okay, and it's going to name them leaf 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So at the top of each and every group, let me also color the layers so we can see the leaves clearly. I'm going to add a new layer, and this one will be my shadow layer. You can also group the leaves inside of the group, like have some nesting going on. And that shadow layer has the alpha inherit on, which means that whatever we'll paint on that layer, I'll show you, will be clipped to all the content of the group, only to the leaves at the bottom. So I'll take a large airbrush. I'll set the layer to the multiply mode and find some soft color I want to use for glazing. Is it? No, it's not strong enough. So when you use the what is your most useful hotkey that isn't straightforward, like Control-C and Control-V, etc.? Yeah, you can't paste a link in the live chat. Most useful keyboard shortcut, really? I must say, I don't know. I don't really know. What would that be? I guess the on canvas operations are to select a layer, Shift R to select a layer. Oh, one that's not obvious, but it's Alt click on any layer's thumbnail to activate the isolation mode. And in isolation mode, whichever layer you select gets isolated. Okay, and you alt click on a thumbnail to deactivate that. And normally you can shift click on the eye icon to toggle the visibility of the other layers off and on. And Krita has crashed, thanks. Out of nowhere. Okay. But it's bugged since version 3 or something, so it's not available now. Okay, so I'll get back to the leaves, add my shadows again. But I noticed one thing. I want to have two groups in there, because you have leaves on top. of one another. Okay, this will be another patch. Okay, so it's really fast to name your layers properly like that. Okay, so I'll start again. I'm gonna grab an airbrush, set the layer to the multiply mode, pick a dark color that's quite desaturated because the multiply mode tends to add saturation based on the color you select. Okay, and then I'm just gonna paint, you know, my really dark shade like this. Okay, and I'm gonna do that for each and every group. And maybe I just want to grab a snapshot of our tree, so I have it on the layer at the top, and you'll see the difference with only the shadows on top of it. It's better on Linux. Well, Krita is a bit more stable on Linux, and I've been trying that out. Now, yes, but with what I do, I think that the whole layer stacking and operations on these kinds of things haven't been thoroughly tested by the community. It's something you do a lot in graphic design, in game development and all, and there are mostly illustrators, animators and all using Krita right now. Although there's you guys, you know, game dev guys coming to it. But yeah, it hasn't been thoroughly tested, and even on Linux, it's not completely stable. I can tell you I have the same crashes on Windows sometimes. But many bugs have been reported. It's just that the developers don't have the resources they get to one thing at a time, right? And I think that the latest version is particularly, this one I'm using right now, is particularly unstable. So yeah, it's something I hope will be fixed in the next one. But the good thing is for the next version of Krita, the developers are taking their time. Basically, they decided that they tried to release new versions quite fast until now. Every 6 weeks, I think they wanted to do, and that didn't work out too well. They didn't have the resources to do it. So yeah. Okay, so this is just the shadows added. I'm gonna add a last one right there. But you know, if you like, we have to give this program still like the attention it deserves, because it's a really, really great program, and regardless of the fact that it's open source, it has some very smart tools, very powerful ones, and the thing is, the developers are so dedicated. It's basically, when you look at the main devs on Krita, and we have Scott, who might still be around the chat, they are very, very dedicated. They do that in their free time for the most part. They maintain it, they answer the users, they do lots of things. And I must say, they are so opinionated that basically I can tell you it will get quite far. Because that's the key to tools making it, you know, going really far, and businesses and projects. It's how opinionated people are, and the fact that they're doing something good as well. So yeah, look at the difference. That was the tree we started with, and with the shadows, that's the one we end up with. So I'm just gonna tone down some of them to create more of a gradation to the top. And then at the very top of my group, in my whole patch of leaves, I'm gonna add again a new layer with inherit alpha off. This time in something like maybe color dodge mode or overlay. I'll try it out and let's see what works best. Color dodge might be a bit too violent. Yeah, overlay. Oh, it's not in color dodge. There we go. Color dodge a bit too violent. Overlay will respect the shadows on the layer a bit more. So I'll use the overlay mode, and I'll paint with a light tone around the top. okay, and a darker tone below mid-grays around the bottom of the tree. And that's also a very quick trick to add some volume to it. So look, without the overlay layer and with it, that's the result. Now that we have that, there are a few things we can do to improve the tree itself. So I'll lock this layer. So when you lock a layer with the little lock icon in the layers docker, you can then, you won't select it when you press R and click on it. So that's when I get there, when I'm satisfied with the shadows and all, I just lock them all. So that way I can easily select leaves at the bottom. Because I basically want to select some of the leaves at the bottom, duplicate them. Okay, is it good? Is it good? Ah, crap. Now I'm lost in the layers hierarchy. Yes, it's good. I'll take them out of the group, move them again, flip them around. I need to group them. And the idea now is to add one last layer at the bottom that's going to be very dark, right? I want my leaves, so I'll collapse them all. And with the hue saturation filter, I'm gonna make them very, very dark and quite, not completely desaturated, but I'll use some hue shifting and play a bit with the hue saturation filter. And this helps to add a bit more depth to it as well. With a keyboard shortcut, that's like alt-clicking on the thumbnail, I isolate the layer as well. And I'll move the leaves around. So there's a question. Modular game sprites is making a sprite in a fashion to get multiple versions of it. Yeah, it's modular is that making things so that they are reusable throughout the process. So that's the asset, making it so you can copy and paste it in the game engine and it will work. And that's also kind of like making the leaves, like here I've made one leaf, and from that I'm making a whole tree. Hold on, there's another question. You're more than usual. Thank you for being so many of you. So when you do something very big or long, like a sky, do you make small parts of it as a sprite node and then copy paste it? No. When you make a sky, you create a gradient that you put in the background, and then if you have, it depends. Sometimes you will just have one illustration in the background and maybe some margins around the limits of the game world, so that you can have some scrolling that happens, but something that's very limited. Sometimes you will just have a background, a gradient in the background. Then you'll paint the clouds on top as layers, basically, and you will just move these layers of clouds on top of it. And sometimes you might do just individual cloud sprites that you then spawn from the code, okay? And you move them from the code. It really depends on what you are doing. No, I'm not going to animate the tree with spine. No. Anyway, on the channel, I try to stick to open source tools, to tools that are available in Linux, because many of you use Linux. So yeah, that's not an option. I want to do at some point. Oh, it's crashed. Nope. Just took a bit of time to... Okay. It was just slowed down for a moment. Okay, I just have one last leaf I want to add to the right side. And we're gonna be kind of done. We're going to move on because Otherwise, it's gonna be a bit boring. Basically, you want to add a bit of that. So if I go back to the source sprite right there, let me grab the color from the layer. You want to add a bit of that basically around your sprite. Not too much though around the top of the tree, but you know, you want to try and add some darker tones in the background to suggest the fact that it's a complex form in 3D and not just a handful of 2D leaves stacked on top of one another. Oh, I get the request to make French videos all the time. No, that's only happening if I can, you know, hire someone. Basically, alone it's not possible. I already have too much work, so that's not an option right now. But I would like to. I basically would like to provide GD Quest in, you know, the main languages I know, and for the people who don't speak English. So in Portuguese, I speak a bit of Portuguese, in Spanish, in Japanese, and in French. Yeah, I'd like if I could. Which one is better, Spine or Spriter? Well, Spine, clearly, but it's, I mean, if you are not an animator, like not a professional, Spriter, right? Spriter is easy to use, and Spine has a more streamlined professional workflow. Okay, that's the main difference, and also it costs 300, because basically the essentials version of Spine is not the best. You really need the inverse kinematics that you have in Spriter. So in that case, I recommend Spriter. Sim, eu falo português. O português, acho que tenho o sotaque do... misturou o sotaque do Portugal e do Brasil agora. Yeah, that's it for Portuguese. I won't do French, don't worry. I'll just stop there. So yeah, I would definitely make videos in other languages, but you need a dedicated channel, you need a dedicated community management and all that stuff. I work modularity means go crazy with lazy. Yeah, but that's also be productive, you know, and that's very important. When you have the tree like that, we can still go ahead and enhance it even more. Basically, you'd want to add some shade at the top like that, like around the edges and all around the back of the tree. Some thin outline to help to separate the tree from the background. So I'm just showing you the idea, right? And separate the leaves from one another. So that's manual work there, and there's not much you can do against it, but you basically go around the whole tree, you cleaned up a bit, and it's going to make the tree pop even more on the background. Now we've done the leaves, okay, we have to do the trunk. So the trunk is quite straightforward. Oh, there's a, yeah, I think you were asking, Ivan, right, was asking if I streamed on Twitch, and so basically there's the option to use something called Restream to stream in two places at the same time. So I could stream on Twitch, but that's one more channel and all, you know. It's extra work in the end, because I could go on Twitch, but you know, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, I have work, so yeah, that's it. I think I won't do it. Not soon, at least. It's not planned. And yes, I'm live streaming again. So the trunk. So let's just think about how trees work. You have the roots at the bottom that anchor the tree in the ground and give it some kind of solid base. Then the trunk is kind of straight most of the time. It depends on the context, but like I have some woods around me. Can I show you? No, I can't show you. There's too much sun, but I have the woods around, and most trees are growing straight up. So trees generally go straight. Otherwise, if they don't go straight, that's because they are growing towards the sun, okay? Or towards where there is water, basically, so they can get some. So that's why the trunk is mostly straight, and then it's the branches that go around. But be careful. The trunk is not absolutely straight, okay? It's a bit curved. And yeah, as far as the branches are concerned, in general, they are evenly distributed as well. So they kind of go in all directions. And I think that's why you see so many tree generators in 3D. It's because mathematically speaking, it's random, but it's still, you manage to make it quite well. Okay, so Twitch has a creative community. Twitch has a creative section where you can get some visibility. I'll check it out with the Restream app. I think that could be nice. So thanks. That's good to know. I'll check it out. I'm not saying I'm gonna do it soon though, because I really have plenty of work, and I'm gonna have to make many videos, especially on YouTube. Like not live streams, but videos, yeah. So then when it comes to the trunk, you want a lot of shade at the top, simply because there are the leaves covering the branches, and there's not so much light that can reach them, at least if the light is coming from the top. But we'll assume that you have basically some sun that's going to light the tree. Then, when it comes to the trunk, the main thing to keep in mind is it's kind of cylindrical, so you want to keep some shade around the sides. Wow, crap. There's so much sun, actually, I can't really see what I'm doing. But I'll pretend that I know what I'm doing and that it's fine. Okay, so you want a bit of shade around the edges because it's turning its space. And then you also want to get some of those intricate patterns, you know, that you can see on real trees. I really can't see what I'm doing right now with all that sun. Okay, I'm just gonna make a copy and I'm going to blow up the contrast, and then I'll pull it back down because otherwise I can't work. Okay, that's a bit better at least. And so for the trunk, I'm using a very simple method. I'm just painting like the traditional way. The only difference is that I have the silhouette from before, and I'm using the preserve alpha option to just paint inside of the tree. Is Krita slow on Windows? Krita is some aspects of Krita are slow, period, and some things are pretty fast. Like brushing with the preview engine is quite nice, but some other things, like for example the layer styles, are still unfinished. A few things basically can be a bit slow, like the move tool, but yeah. It's getting better over time. Since I started using it, it's made major leaps in the right direction. Okay, so as far as the trunk is concerned, you want to do the typical things like adding some occlusion shadow. So basically whenever you have proximity, for example, between the branches and the top of the trunk, you add a bit of shade. Things like these, nothing too fancy. And I recommend to add just a bit of texture. You do things the way you want to, but how is it called? Like the skin of the tree. To paint the trunk, I'm using the same brush all the time. It's like that flat brush basically, and I really like to work with that. I've used those for a long time. Which one could I use instead? This one, the dragon brush. I quite like it. This one will actually work better for the types of details I want to make right now. So now I'm using a square blending brush, basically that has a bit of a special shape. I call it the dragon brush, but it gives you a more natural painting feel that if you were just using a real square, right? But I'm following a fairly traditional process for this one. You know, using the shape of the brush to create the details, not forcing anything, not trying to use a special texture and all. That's just, that's really, how can you say, you get in the zone when you do that. Krita 64 bits needs some major optimization for Windows. Can I stream in Australian? Yo, I don't even know. I barely know the Australian accent, so no, sorry. I can barely do British versus American. It's going to be a huge caricature if I do it, so. Okay. I don't want to lose track of the big picture too much, which you tend to do when you zoom in. I shouldn't zoom in that much. And yeah, let's say it's about all right. We're getting close to done with the tree. So we're gonna go on to the next step now. Great. Also, one thing I'm noticing is the details, like those kinds, you tend to have tubular shape that grow around, kind of grow around the tree and spiral around the trunk. And yeah, they don't grow, the details are not going up straight. So let me show you that with a lighter color. Like that. So you can see this crease I've made is kind of spiraling around, okay? And it's not going up straight, so that's quite important. You want to pay attention to that when it comes to the real trees, basically. Sensate. Okay, so the Australian accent is just everything with an 8 at the end. Okay, yeah, but I'm not gonna try it live. I'm gonna be ridiculous. If you want me to do silly things, that I can do, but let me prepare for it, because it not only has to be silly, it has to be good. It's very important with humor. Okay, well, let's call it a day and move on. So one thing with game assets is, regardless of what you get at some point, what matters is when you put it in the game engine, if it works, if it stays in the background. If it doesn't, you just come back to the document and you just use some adjustment layers and all to fix the main issues you have, and that's it. You re-export. Sadly, Krita doesn't have tools to export right now. That's why I'm waiting for Python so much. And one thing you want to do, obviously, is make sure that the tree is consistent from the top to the bottom of the sprite. You don't want to leave gaps at the top like these. You really want to fix them as you are working on the asset. Okay. So now we have that. I can show you one thing. In Krita, you can create clones. Okay. And let's say we'd like to make a tree with multiple patches of leaves, like 2 or 3, like the one at the top. So to do that, when you have a group selected, for example, you can go to the layer creation menu with this little arrow at the bottom of the layer stack and click on clone layer. Okay, and once you have it, you have a clone of the group basically. Yes, the UI will be exposed to the Python tools in Krita, so you will be able to add new dockers and all. It's already available, it already works, but it's still in alpha basically. So yeah, you can see when it wants to update correctly. That's one of the features. I think very few people use it, sadly. So this is performance intensive, and sometimes it's a bit buggy. It doesn't update properly. When you have lots of layers like this, when the document gets complex. Otherwise, it works well in small documents. So when I paint inside of my group, the clone gets the changes instantly. It's very powerful in that regard. The only problem is, in order to scale it, I have to add a transform mask, which is going to be quite costly in terms of performance. Okay? But now with that, I can replicate the effect I wanted to show you with like how it would work in a real game engine. So I'm going to create 3 clones in total and transform them. Okay, let's hope it doesn't crash. So that's typically a feature. I hope that the performances and the stability can get a bit better, because it's extremely powerful. Really, it's something I absolutely love. So there you go. Here's how we would make, you know, a different type of tree with the same leaves. Whoops. I'm gonna put you, no, I want to put you in front. There you go. Okay, so we have our 3 patches. Now, and you, oh, hold on, do you have max memory usage in Kritas and Paint Tools Psi? I think you do. I think you have an option for that. Yes, you do. You can add a, you know, swap files and all that stuff. You can customize all those things. Okay. So I've just scaled and rotated the leaves in a way that's very similar to what you can do in the game engine. But now it doesn't work too well, right? But I told you one thing we'll have in the game engine is either the possibility to make kind of gradients on top of it to modulate the colors, or kind of like filters, basically, just like the hue saturation filter. So to simulate that in Krita, you also have a non-destructive layer type, so you can use either the filter layer or a filter mask that's attached to the layer. I'll choose HSL HSV adjustment, and I'll just modify the tone of the leaves a little bit, and you will see instantly how the tree comes a bit more alive. Okay, not so much, not so much. Oh, calm down. Krita, you're crazy. Oh god. Oh my. Okay. So yeah, we'll use something like that around here, and I'll duplicate the filter, add it to the, no, not the layer at the top. Oh, I like this color actually. I'm gonna use that, I think. By the way, to quickly edit the properties of a layer, you press F3. Alright, and yeah, it works for everything. So yeah, if we change the colors, I'm surprised it works well already. It works a lot better with those different colors. And just want to add some shade to the one in the background to give some more depth to my tree. Okay, so that's very typical of how you'd make a tree in a game engine. It's only one thing that's a bit weird to me. Okay, let's go with that. I'll group everything. Whoa, it's slow. It's getting slow. There we go. And I'll get to capture this one as well. Okay, doesn't work. Yes, it works. Okay. Yeah, that's typically the thing with Krita. It tends to get a bit slow. I think it's calculating some things it doesn't have to at times. So now we can compare both trees. We have one that's made with our modular asset that we reuse, and the other one that just uses one patch of leaves. Okay, now a tree has one problem. The small leaves at the top are kind of distinct from the rest of the mass of leaves. So it's not perfect, but you get the idea. Do you know how to make black and white textures recolorable in your game engine? When I convert the sprite to black and white and color it in the engine, the colors are off. Yeah, that was made in like an hour. No, there's not. You have to write your own shaders if you want to do that, or you need an engine that has color grading. But it's kind of you have to write shaders in any case. All right. So yeah, that's the result, and we already have reusable leaves, right? So I'm gonna save that. There's a bit of wonkiness at the bottom and things like these, but that's something once you put it inside of the game engine, you see those things and you can fix them very fast. VS Gaming is asking the performance of Krita, I assume, is better on Linux or on Mac. Obviously Linux, because that's a Linux-based program, and Mac is still the Mac version is still young, but I don't know if that will make too much of a difference, though. There's a clear difference, but it's not. I'd say it's not 10 times faster on Linux. Some operations are faster, like painting, for example, is much more efficient. Yeah. And then, yeah, you can make more trees with this stuff in a little time. If I duplicate the trunk, I can just even do things like these. So that's typically when you have the branches as separate sprites. It helps a lot. But I can basically resculpt the trunk and the branches and all. And let's say this is a different tree now. You repaint a bit over it. You get the idea. Okay. So now I'm going to take the tree we have as a result and take it to a new document, and now we'll see something else that's quite interesting as well. That was requested just before the stream. Okay, hold on, it has to save. Well, while we are waiting, how about we take a cup of coffee or something? Oh shit, I don't have coffee. Oh shit, I said shit. Sorry. Thankfully, you're all adults. Why? Oh, Happy Ashes, just dump construct 2, please. Okay, close and don't save. And okay, it's... I don't like when it's doing that. Okay. Restarting. Construct 2 is... it lacks flexibility compared to something like Unity, like Godot, like something else with an editor, because editors are big bottlenecks. But yeah, I would highly recommend you to try out Godot. And people are a bit... okay, so it's still waiting for the image operation to complete. Great. Okay. Now, can I take just you in a new document? Thank you. Okay, I'll scale the document up to about 3,000, 3,500. Make it way bigger. So we have some room around the tree, mostly horizontally. And I'll save that as a new Krita document. So basically, we're going to talk about how to integrate it in the environment. Okay, I'll close this document, otherwise it's going to slow the program down. And now we want to do more things, like integrate it inside of, the game world, the game level. And to do that, we're not going to just place the tree like that and add some shadows and all. So let me I prepared some pictures for you. So I have the Odin Sphere remake right there. And the way they do plants and all, not these trees are too much in the background. Yeah, if you look at the trees, they always have other sprites in front, basically. That's the trick. So I use this one as a reference. And that's just what we're gonna do. So there are many ways to do this. If we're doing, say, I don't know, what are we doing? Grasslands? Start to go for it. Sorry, I'm reading the comments. Yeah, just go for Godot, give it a try. Because some people think it's a bit daunting because there's programming involved and all that stuff. But really, you're programming when you're using Construct2, and when you start to do things, you learn to do things wrong sometimes, especially for beginners, because the program tries to do a lot for you. And that's very good. If I was gonna teach kids programming, I'd like to use something like Scratch or Construct2. It has its uses. I used it professionally. We could make games very, very fast, small HTML5 games with it. So that was quite helpful. But yeah, the fact that everything is closed was a pain at times. Okay, so one way to cover a tree is to make some kind of mound like that, and it's just going to be a pile of dirt that we place in the game engine, and that's itself gonna be covered. So often we do things like these. It really depends on the game. Okay, don't take anything. I'm going to show you like it's the one solution you should use, because it's not. Especially in indie game development, we all use different tricks and techniques, but at least that is the idea. So you make a sprite that extends a bit down, and that's going to be covered by even other sprites. Basically, in any side-scrolling games, you will always have the road that's kind of like that, covering things, at least partially, and then you will have plants as well, okay, on top of that. So what I like to do, at least, is have kind of dirt mounds on which to place the vegetation. Because if you don't have that, you have to make full layers of vegetation to cover the trees, which is quite time consuming. Okay, today as well, you don't have to worry too much about the size of the sprites if you are targeting desktop platforms. Okay, it's more like if you're working for mobiles, you have to do things otherwise. You will most often use tile sets, for example, instead. But really for a desktop game, and if you're making such a detailed tree and all, or console, it's, you can go pretty nuts with it, no problem. So I'm gonna make some dirt, and then we'll place maybe some grass and all on top of it. So that's the idea. That's something I used in the past. Hold on, I'm trying to get the shape right. And it's the time of the day where I start to get a bit tired. So as I said, it's been a long day and it's been a long week. I haven't had a day off in the past 8 days. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. And I'm working tomorrow as well. Yay, working on Sunday. Okay, so with this dirt mound, we're going to either cover the tree directly to place kind of a layer, you know, of dirt in front of it. So maybe I'm using a clone layer right now to kind of get whether the shape of my sprite is good or not. I'm going to make it larger like that. I think it'll work better, so that it's easier to stack up my sprites later on. Okay, and with large strokes, I'm gonna give it just some shade to give it a bit more volume. Whoa. Okay. Okay, so that's one way to do it. In that case, I think I'd rather have the tree in front. Yeah, I think it'll be better. It'll work better. I'll be sexier to be precise. I think I'm just gonna show you that, and then we'll be done for the stream for this time, because I'm really starting to lose my mind. Okay, so dirt. By the way, it's a good occasion to show you the way I do it. Quite simple. I use very large strokes at first, like that, to just define, you know, those wiggly lines. Kind of defines the nuts and crannies. Kind of tell me where you have gaps and where you have volume. Oh, why do I have to work on Sunday? Well, it's simply because there's work to do. That's it. I mean, I work alone, so yeah, I always have. Basically, right now I make a living of client work, and I have to work on a premium Krita training and other things as well. So yeah, it's only you have to invest time in it, you know. I'm not going to work the full day tomorrow. Yes, tile sets are modular, and that's one way to make modular gamer sets. Can you do a tutorial on creating modular creatures one day? There will be more and more tutorials about characters, creatures, and all, but one thing at a time. Yeah, that's often most of the suggestions you give me and all, I write them down. You know, often it's already been asked by someone or something similar has been suggested. But yeah, I write them down and I don't forget them. Don't worry. So yeah, I want to do plenty of things, but I can only do so much. So yeah, coming back to dirt, the wiggly lines I'm putting there give me some texture to work on. And it looks more like a rock that way. I think the shape is completely off. I have to make it a bit more flat. It looks like a huge rock, really. That's ridiculous. I'm trying to read the chat at the same time. Yeah. So yeah, that's characters, creatures, and all is part of the things I want to do. Yeah, there's too much roundness to the form because of the darkness I put on the edges. That's why it had a tendency to feel like rocks. Okay, so I have a base for it, and then basically I'm not going to show you the whole process because it's a bit repetitive, but yeah, my opacity was quite low as well. That's why I couldn't get. But then from there on, I add smaller details. Okay. To give this a bit more texture. I modulate the brush size basically, and then I'm going to paint over it again. But it takes a while. For something like that, it's going to... Brandon's asking, how does he rotate the brush? How do I rotate it? Well, I'm using an Art pen from Wacom, and this one has pen rotation support. So my brush presets support pen rotation when applicable. And that's how, basically I'm physically I'm rotating the brush like that with my fingers while I'm painting. And that is awesome. Hi there, how are you doing? You will binge watch this when it's over. Thank you, thanks a lot. You're coming at the time where I'm starting to talk nonsense, and yeah, that's not the best time to drop in. But the start of the tutorial was quite decent, I think. So yeah, I think you get the idea. That's kind of how I would do a dirt mound, and then I can duplicate it anytime and place it, you know, overlap them in the game engine, or I can just put this one in the background. It really depends. So I'm going to do the usual transform, scale it. That's typically when you see, at first I thought when I was working in mobiles, we had very tight restrictions to the size of the assets and all, and we couldn't use things like these. But one day I saw a level designer working, like scaling things like crazy and all, and I was like, whoa, life could just be so much easier for us artists. So yeah, look at it, because I mostly want to show you that you don't need that much for your game to work, and to make modular really powerful, reusable assets. You don't need that much. It's just basically a blob that looks a bit like a rock with a few dots on it. And look at it. If I just copy paste a few around, I get a pretty decent ground for my tree. And if you are working as an illustrator, so illustrators have a tendency, you know, I have a more technical profile because I'm a game designer, but illustrators don't use that too much. Really, you can use that in illustration. You can use that in whatever you're doing, right? So yeah, just look at it. Just look at the result. I'm just going to increase the contrast so it's more visible. Whoa, 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 calm down, Krita. Nope, I'm not trying to do this. Not trying to completely burn my sprite. There we go. Works pretty well, doesn't it? And obviously we can always add some shadow under the tree. So I'll use my, this one, shadow brush. Have to do this. And really, when you make your sprites, always check them out in the game engine and do not overdo them, right? I have some experience with that. I've worked on a few games already. When you're doing a shadow like that, most likely in the final game, it won't be visible at all. So, you know, you can just make a circle to make a nice temporary illustration and all. But don't overdo it. You don't have to bother too much. And everything that's in the background is not going to be that visible anyway. So now I'm gonna grab a shrub. Oh yes, I can't drag and drop in this version. So I'll just grab, hold on, let me grab a layer there, okay. And I want to grab the shrub. All right. So we have this sweet guy that I made before for the training, you can find in the video description. So like more premium training I'm working on. And if I just add that, so typical setting, you know, reusing the sprites, that's something we do typically. So we would have in the game maybe a few more assets. You know, when the game is done after 1.5 to 2 years working on a game, obviously you have far more assets. And actually the main reason I can't have so many for you is just because when I'm working, basically when I'm making a video about an asset, I have a lot more work making the video than making the game asset. So that's why I don't have so many tonight. But you know, I just want to show you that with modularity, we have one patch of leaves that's been copied 3 times around. We could copy our tree, and with the code that recolors it in the game engine, all of the trees would look different. You can have some randomization code even when you place the tree in the editor, or shaders that apply. We made one mound of dirt, right, for the ground, and just duplicated it around. And you can see in very little time, the stream has been less than 2 hours, right? 1.5 hours. We already have a little scene to work with. And hold on, because I have my file manager that's... yeah, sorry. Okay. We already have what we need, you know, to make a nice little scene. Less than 1.5 hours. It's very little time, guys. So that's why I invite you to embrace modularity, and I'll talk more about that. So first of all, in the Krita training I'm doing, but you will see that all the assets I'm making for the training, after it's done, after I've finished the training, I will release them open source. That was one of my promises for the initial Kickstarter that allowed it to exist. So yeah, that's something I'm gonna do, and there might even be a Godot tutorial series based on you know, that uses V assets, where you'll have open source code and open source assets. All right. So with that, you can hear I'm losing my voice. But I think I've showed you everything, you know, there was to say about that. So I'm gonna cut the stream. Yes, it is Krita. It's not Photoshop. Krita is powerful. It's really powerful. So yeah, that's it for today. Was a little bit shorter than planned, but you know, if you have any questions before I leave, the recording will be available. So if you want to watch everything and all, don't worry, it's going to be up really soon. And you were many to watch it. Yeah, 108 hours of watch time. That's pretty big. VS Gaming is asking, do you make game assets using Inkscape? So I don't know if you're talking among yourselves or if that's for me, but for me at least it's no. I won't use Inkscape. Really, when it comes to open source, I try to support you guys so you can work with open source programs. But in all honesty, I only work with an open source program if I think it's fit for professional use, not and flexible enough and all for the needs that I have making the videos as well. If I can't show you tricks that as professionals we use every single day, because the thing is, if you get to work in games, no studio will accept that you use Inkscape in-house, okay? Every studio will ask for Photoshop or for Flash most of the time. It's very, very rare to see Illustrator, okay? So most studios use those two, and it's really, sorry, even if you use Flash, everyone uses Photoshop pretty much. So yeah, at the end of the day, in Krita, I can show you many tricks that basically, if you learn with Krita, you make your portfolio and all that stuff. Really, you can find a job, and a lot of what you learn here translates to Photoshop, translates to real professional skills. So you can, for those of you who are maybe, in countries where it's expensive to get training on Photoshop, and art school is expensive, and the tools themselves are expensive, and you don't want to get locked in the Adobe subscription, you have a program like this to learn. And even there are professional animators and illustrators that are using it right now, even professional game artists for 3D textures and all that stuff. So yeah, have a good evening, have a good afternoon, whatever, depending on what time it is where you are. For me, it's the evening pretty soon, gonna be 6 p.m. And be creative, have fun, and thank you kindly for watching, for being there. And I'm tapping out. Where is the stop stream? There we go. 3, 2, 1, bye-bye.